Hello, everybody. This is Joseph P. Farrell with news and views from the Nefarium on Thursday, February 27th, 2025. We're going to take care of the housekeeping first, folks. I've had some computer problems today. About 3 hours it's taken me to get back up and running. Now, we are going to go ahead with the vid chat tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. U.S. Central Time. That means get your comments and questions posted no later than 10 p.m. U.S. Central Time today. Remember, one page and one post per customer. Do not add extra posts until after the vid chat is over, please. Cross your fingers, and we'll see. I'm letting you know about the computer problems just in case something should happen tomorrow. Give me about 30 minutes if I am not started by 2 o'clock to get into the room. After that, just assume I'm having computer issues. I will try to be there early, barring any more technical problems, to get things up and running and to talk a little bit in the pre-chat as I usually do. All right. So we've had German elections last weekend, and I am not one of those who thinks that the Alternative for Deutschland is a far-right party. I'm sorry. What you're dealing with is mostly the former Eastern Zone or East Germany. And if you know anything about the reunification, you'll know that that part of the country has been kind of lagging behind the rest. And it's also the most it's the most German part of the country in that it's not part of Mr. Globaloney's open borders. We don't care about your culture, all of that baloney. So I'm not going to comment. I think it is absolutely deplorable that due to the parliamentary system in Germany, the CDU is going to enter probably a coalition government with the very people that the German people just voted out. Okay, so that makes no sense to me, but hey, it's European politics, so there you go. I want to talk really about another story. This was shared courtesy of MD, so thank you for spotting this. I had to laugh when I read this. This is a very short article by a journalist by the name of Eric Revel, published in Fox Business on February 23rd, so just about 4 days ago. And I had to chuckle when I read this. It's a very short article, and I'm not even going to bother reading all of it. There's about 5 paragraphs here that I want you to listen to. If you've been following what's happening with gold lately, you'll know that everybody seems obsessed with it. State bullion depositories, and in some cases they're opening both gold and silver, which I agree with wholeheartedly. I'm not a monometalist in that sense. But I'm strongly disagreed with this idea that they're opening with electronic transfer only. They need to issue physical certificates to the bearer payable on demand. And that has to be made legal tender, as well as legal tender of bullion coins, gold and silver coins, and businesses must accept them. Okay? Otherwise, if you have merely a digital system supposedly backed by gold, you're opening yourself up to all sorts of fraud, and you're also reliant upon the goodwill of your state and your local bankers and central bankers and so on. In other words, that digital quote currency unquote is, as Catherine Fitz has been warning for quite some time, nothing but a corporate coupon that they can adjust the value of at will. So the system that they're erecting is not very transparent. That said, gold is in the news because it's been coming into this country in record rates. And it's also been in the news recently because Mr. Trump wants to do an audit of Fort Knox. And you know my thoughts on Fort Knox. The last quote-unquote audit was in 1974, and I just did a blog about this. The audit in 1974 when you do an audit, you're supposed to be able to have random access to any vault and then random access to any bar or bars in that vault for assay purposes. In the 1974 quote-unquote audit, the vaults were not randomly opened. They were only allowed to see one vault, which was chosen by the government. They were not allowed to do any assay on randomly chosen bars, and so on. So the audit supposedly was a complete farce. So gold is in the news, and this little article by Eric Revel is titled "Why Banks Are Flying Gold Bars on Commercial Flights from London to New York City." And I want to read you about 5 paragraphs here, right from the beginning to the center of this very short article. Quote, Trump's plans to impose tariffs on United States trading partners, including a reciprocal tariff regime that's expected to be formalized by early April, and tariffs on the European Union he hasn't yet detailed, have spurred banks to relocate their gold reserves. That move has been driven by a price differential between gold sold in London and New York. The Wall Street Journal reported last week that the prices of gold per troy ounce have been roughly $20 lower in London since early December. London is the main trading location for the physical gold market, while New York is a hub for futures contracts. Due to the disparity, moving the gold from London to New York can help banks recover what would otherwise have been money-losing trades on gold futures by flying the gold across the Atlantic, allowing them to at least pare their losses or make more money by locking in new futures contracts. The amount, and I'm skipping a couple of paragraphs here, the amount of gold being flown across the Atlantic on commercial airliners is significant. J.P. Morgan said in a filing with CME Group's COMEX that it plans to move about $4 billion in gold from London to New York in February. Okay? There you have it. So the explanation for what's going on with all the gold moving into this country is simply, the prices are so different between New York and London. We're flying all the gold to New York to cut our losses on gold futures contracts we have in London, and also to profit from the higher price that we'll get on gold futures in New York. So in other words, it's just the good old supply, demand, profit, and loss game. Okay? Now, that, I suspect, is true, but only as far as it goes. I think they're trying to come up with an explanation that sounds plausible so that people won't keep looking at the phenomenon of why is all of this gold coming into this country. And you'll notice they gave a second little hint about the why. It's because of Mr. Trump's threatened tariffs. But even there, I don't think that's much of an explanation. There's got to be, in my opinion, some other reason. Now, for those of you who've been following me for a number of years and my various books and writings on this particular subject, I have posited that since the end of World War II, there has existed a hidden system of finance based on recovered gold and other bullions from the Operation Golden Lily that the Imperial Japanese conducted in Asia and Southeast Asia during World War II. They recovered an enormous amount of money. And in 1940, I believe it was 47, Harry Truman decided to recover that bullion and keep it as a hidden secret reserve to fund covert operations. And in my opinion, there was probably so much gold and other bullion that this was also used to fund black projects research, and that's the real key. What he did, therefore, was he put all of this recovered gold under the jurisdiction and control of the National Security Agency. And by doing that, he set up the American intelligence community in the banking business. And they created, in my opinion, an entirely off the books and hidden system of finance based on that recovered Japanese loot and probably some Nazi loot. And that loot in turn was used as a hidden reserve by participating banks in that hidden system. And of course, with a hidden reserve, what you can do is you can rehypothecate that gold and that reserve over and over again. In other words, you use it to create massive amounts of liquidity. That all works so long as no one wants to look and have a close look at the actual amount of gold in the world. Now, for years, the United States has supposedly led the world in the amount of its gold reserves at Fort Knox. And please remember, Fort Knox is the American gold reserve. This is different than the gold in the Federal Reserve Bank of New York's vaults. That is a clearing bank that moves gold from one vault to another depending on which country owns it at the time. So in other words, the audit, I suspect, of Fort Knox that is being talked about and perhaps even threatened has forced the hand of whoever was moving gold surreptitiously out of Fort Knox and perhaps into this hidden system of finance. It's forcing them to move it back and to do so quickly. That, I suspect, may be part of the game here. And they're doing it probably with a view to try to control the audit again as they did in 1974. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Now, in this regard, there's one other story to take note of. Just in the midst of the German elections, the German Bundesbank reported losses. This is their central bank. Reported losses, and I forget how much it was, 20 to 40 billion euros or something like that, an astronomical sum of money. But my question is, how does a central bank lose money? And in the Bundesbank's case, we're dealing with a bank that has, for a number of years, at least since the end of World War II, maintained a reputation for stability and probity. And my question is, how all of a sudden does the Bundesbank manage to lose that amount of money? So there's lots going on, and I have a feeling that we're just beginning to see the tip of the iceberg on some of these stories. I have a feeling it may come all untangled and unglued over the next few years. We'll see. So let me know what you think about my wild, high-octane speculations. Don't forget that we do have the vid chat tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. U.S. Central Time. Questions and comments, one page, one submission per customer only before 10 o'clock U.S. Central Time this evening. And keep your fingers crossed that I don't have another 3 hours of technical issues to resolve. It actually ended up costing me about $250 and 3 hours of frantic work just to get up and running again. So we'll see you all on the flip side. Bye-bye, everybody, and God bless.